Hello and welcome to Talking Golf with Gary. This week, the dynamic Gary will introduce you to all kinds of topics pertinent to this past week of golf. He'll give you some tidbits of information as what's coming up and take you on a tour around the world for all of the golfing highlights. Sit back and enjoy Talking Golf with Gary.
And hello, welcome to another edition of TGWG, Talking Golf with Gary. Hope everyone had a terrific week out there. And, the weather it was chilly this week here in the Northeast, but it's a little warmer today. I guess you could go out and play some if you were so inclined, but haven't really been that inclined, I guess, to go out in this kind of weather and play. But they are playing. There was another event on the PGA Tour. This week it was a non-sanctioned event. It was the Hero World Golf Challenge. And John Rahm turned a potential shootout into a Bahama breeze Sunday, closing with a 7 under 65 for a 4-shot victory in the Hero World Challenge. Starting the final round in a 3-way tie with Tony Finau and Henrik Stenson, Rahm took the lead when Finau made bogey on the par 3 8th hole, and the 24-year-old Spaniard never trailed the rest of the day at the Albany Golf Club. Finau was the last challenger until the 14th hole when he went from a sandy area to a bunker and over the green, leading to double bogey. Rahm made birdie on the hole and suddenly had a 5-shot lead without much trouble to get in the way. Rahm ends his year with 3 victories, just like in 2017, his first full year as a pro. And as we said, this is Tiger Woods' event, and Tiger didn't fail. He didn't do too good this week, finished next to last in the 18-man field with a 1 under. But some news about Tiger next year came out. He says he will reduce his playing schedule in 2019. His 19 worldwide starts in 2018 matches his highest total from 5 years ago. Woods didn't anticipate playing that many, but with his body holding up and by gaining qualification in certain events like the late season World Golf Championships Bridgestone Invitational, after he moved inside the top 50 in the world rankings, the starts kept adding up. Down the stretch, he played 7 times in 9 weeks. Only once since 2006 has Woods played more events in a year than 19, and that was the 22 starts he made in 2012. Woods turns 43 later this month and promises not to subject his aging body to the rigors of that many starts moving forward. He and his team will soon get together to try to figure out what would work for him. His only confirmed starts for now is the Genesis Open, which is run by his foundation, and the 4 majors. So Tiger readjusting his schedule in 2019. And on the European Tour, we had Kurt Kitayama secured his maiden European Tour title in just his 3rd event after claiming a 2-shot victory at the tri-sanctioned Afrasia Bank Mauritius Open at Anahita. The American, who earned his playing privileges at qualifying school last month, carded an eagle, 4 birdies and 2 bogeys in his closing 68 on Sunday. And in another event on the European Tour, Cameron Smith held off the challenge of fellow home favorite Mark Leishman to successfully defend his title at the Australian PGA Championship. Smith's 2nd European Tour victory comes in just his 20th event and makes him the first player to successfully defend his title since Robert Allenby in 2001. And that's the recap for this week. A little slow in the action, but it's that time of year, so you pick what you can get and check out and watch whatever you can when it comes to golf. All right, we're going to take a break and be back with my special guest, Randy Bowman. He's invented a really neat product, and he'll talk about it and tell you how to get it. So please stay tuned for that right after this message.
Baseball and BBQ. your place for interesting baseball talk, opinions, and history.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for barbecue recipes, tips, and interviews from the world of barbecue. If you like baseball and if you like barbecue, then tune in to Baseball and BBQ. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and BaseballTalkRadio.com.
Joining me tonight is the CEO and founder of a fairly new corporation called SQUARD UP, SQRDUP, and his name is Randy Bowman, and he's come up with an alignment tool that's a little unique and a little different. And Randy, welcome to Talking Golf with Gary.
Thanks, Gary. Great to be here.
So, Randy, how did you get started? First off, are you a golfer, and how did you get started in this crazy game?
Well, I am a golfer. I started at age 25. Never had a lesson until I was in my 50s, and that, how I wish I'd started when I was much younger. had a lot of lessons.
Yeah.
Of course, if I had more talent, maybe it'd be different. But I love the game of golf. I'm a hack.
So why?
I love the game. I love getting out there, just being out in nature, but the challenge of being competitive with myself.
Right. So, tell us a little bit about what is SQUARD UP, and how did you come up with this product?
Sure. My youngest brother was staying with my wife and I. Now, this is where it's, I don't know if it's embarrassing or it shows perseverance. My younger brother came up with this idea 11 years ago this month, in November. I came home from work and he was standing out in the driveway, and he was standing at the expansion joint in the driveway where it created a crosshair pattern.
Right.
And he said, "Hey, I have this idea." He goes, "Do you think it's possible to build something that would project lines like this crosshair pattern that you could see outdoors in daylight?" And Michael's always come up with ideas, and I usually say, "Well, that's a stupid idea. That's not very good." But this one, I thought, wow, now this has merit. And so we started playing around in the basement. We'd go to Home Depot and Hobby Lobby, and we did a lot of research online, not knowing anything about lasers or anything like that. I'm an old retired Marine, and at that time I had gone into my second career where I was doing oil and gas as a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So we piddled around for a little bit over 3 years. It was just something to do. And finally, at one point, we went, wow, this is possible. At least we thought that it was possible at the time. We didn't know what had to be overcome by the brightness of the lasers, and you got to be FDA compliant and everything else. But we had found an engineer out in Utah that he built us 6 prototypes. And if I may, I'll tell you somewhat of a funny story along that line. I stupidly, and maybe it's because of being a retired Marine, I said, okay, we have 6 prototypes. We have to go to the PGA show in Orlando, Florida. Now, that wasn't very bright, but I wanted to see if there was any interest in it. We picked up the 6 units Friday night at midnight, and we were flying out Saturday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, the PGA show is a very expensive show.
Yes.
With the outdoor booth at the driving range and the indoor booth and flying there and hotel and everything else, we spent $20,000.
Wow.
So we fly out Saturday morning, and we get there, and it's raining cats and dogs. So we've only seen the unit indoors. And man, it looked great indoors. The engineer gave us what we wanted, but we can't see it outdoors. Well, it rained Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We can't go outdoors with it. We're turning it on indoors, at the hotel, and this is great. Finally, the show is starting Wednesday, the expo is. Tuesday, the weather breaks, so we go to the driving range at Orange County Golf Course. We, matter of fact, had a tee time to play around the golf. We go over to the driving range, and I set it down and I turn it on and it doesn't work. I can't see it outdoors in daylight. I remember calling my wife and I'm going, Jenny, you can't see it outdoors. And of course, we didn't know enough about lasers and all this stuff, but can't see it outdoors. And my wife said, well, you're there. You got to just make the best of it. And I'm like, well, how are you going to sell this? You can't see it outdoors. So we played the round of golf. We get back to the hotel room and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And we turn it on and it doesn't work indoors either.
Oh,
well,
boy.
The batteries had finally ran out.
Ah.
So at that point, it wasn't rechargeable. We put new batteries in and everything was great,
That's good.
But where I was stupid was I thought if you could build 6 prototypes, you can start manufacturing. And that's a whole different story. And we ran into a lot of problems with manufacturing. 4 months and 40 grand with one company here in the States, and it wasn't good. And then 8 months and another 40 grand with a company overseas, and that wasn't good. And so we kept at it. And last year, I was turning 60, and I told my wife, I said, if I don't pursue this now, I never will, because as we get older, your opportunity to get things done is going by very quickly. So I quit my job last year out in Denver. I was in oil and gas as a buyer. We moved to Georgia, the Atlanta metro area. We moved here we live with family above the garage, and I focused on SQURD Up full time. And since that time, I have found the laser company. It's a German company that they provide lasers to the U.S. military, Volkswagen, GE Health. So I've gone through so many different laser companies, and you very quickly weed out those that aren't any good. We built our first production run of 200. We have sold almost every one of those, have sales from not only the U.S., but around the world. We sold one in Luxembourg, which I'm just totally amazed about that, and Belgium and Philippines, Thailand, France, Germany, Japan, just all over the place. And we're currently working on building the next 1,000 units. So that's everything in a nutshell.
So take us through a little bit about the manufacturing process and the development process. So you come up with the prototypes. You've got to find somebody to manufacture, and as you say, you ran into problems. How long? It's not. People think you come up with these things, and then you find somebody, as you said, to manufacture, but it's not an easy process at all.
No. And I tell you what I learned through this. So you come up with an idea, and unless you can build your own prototype, which we, in the basement, we cut plastic and glued it to make our mold of what we thought it would look like. But that's not going to really build you the prototype you need to see if there's any demand. So you find a company that they specialize in building prototypes. And those 6 prototypes, that was $35,000. There's engineering and optics, and there's all this kind of stuff. But you're going to find some company that will build the prototypes. Well, just because you have those prototypes built does not mean you're ready, as I learned, does not mean you're ready to go into manufacturing. Because if you're going to try to manufacture based on your prototype engineering, the cost is way, way too high. So then you have to find usually another company. The prototype company is not normally, at least in my findings, is not normally the company that's going to then re-engineer this to take out all the fat that you don't need, that's going to engineer it so the assembly is very quick. These first 200 that I did, I'm assembling these up in our bedroom above the garage. And it would take me an hour to get the lasers lined up. Well, we then found an engineering company down in Tampa that I'm very happy with. They've done work for Toyota and Honda and others. And this company knows how to engineer it so it can be put together very quickly. And it's now a 3 to 4 minute process.
Oh, terrific.
But you're again paying for another, engineering again, and,
right.
The injection mold, because we're going, the first 200 was aluminum, which is very nice, but one, it weighs a pound, 1.2 pounds. We're going to go plastic. It weighs 5 ounces. It's lighter. You know, you're not carrying anything heavy in your bag, and it costs less. But you then have, like I said, that was what do we spend on that? Another 40, 50 grand for the engineering and the injection mold. And of course, every time you think something's going to take 4 weeks, it takes 8 weeks. And you also find out, this is what I've learned, that, and engineers are smart. I mean, they went to school to be smart, you know. If you go to them and you say, I got this idea, and this is what I want, you better ride them pretty hard. Because if not, if you're not paying attention, they're going to go off down their own path. And the next thing you know, they haven't completed your vision. They have taken your thoughts and added to it or subtracted from it. And maybe they came out with something good, or maybe you're looking at that and go, what is that? I told you I wanted something that was 6 inches by 6 inches, because ours is a crosshair pattern, so it puts out 4 beams. So 6 inches by 6 inches, and it's an inch tall, and you built me a Folgers, round coffee can. So I would tell any entrepreneur that you better make sure that you're checking on your engineer daily. And even though you think you've explained very well what you want built, you better be watching it pretty close.
Okay, so now that we've talked about the process and everything, tell us exactly how you use the Squared Up.
Okay, well, now, and here's another somewhat funny story. It puts out 4 beams at 90-degree angle. So it'd be like a golfer that puts a stick down at their feet to get their target line, and sometimes they'll lay a stick or a club, and sometimes they'll lay another one crosswise, like a crosshair pattern, so they know where the ball's at in their stance and that kind of stuff. So you do the same thing with Squared Up. You put it down between you and the ball. It puts out these 4 beams. Well, I went to a Wounded Warrior Project golf tournament in St. Louis, I think 2011, maybe 2012. And, we're still struggling through this, trying to learn everything. But Peter Jacobson was there. And I finally worked up enough courage. He was the guest speaker. And I finally worked up enough courage to go over there and say, hey, Peter, do you mind look at something here? I want to show you. And he goes, oh, yeah, I love an entrepreneurs. And, I mean, what a great guy. He's just fantastic. So he just had back surgery. And I didn't want to make him walk very far, but the driving range was quite a ways over. And so I just set it down right there on the grass. And he goes, wow, that's great for putting. And I said, well, no, it's not for putting. It's for the driving range. And he said, no, this is for putting. And I argued with Peter Jacobson. So finally I said, okay, let's go to the putting green, which is only a few steps away, and set it down there. And he took it and he said, now you see, most golfers think their putter is square. And he grabbed my 25-year-old bullseye. I'm left-handed, but bullseye, it's right or left. Yeah. He grabs it, he puts it down there and goes, now see, now with this, I can tell my club face is square. And he goes, see that hole over there? And it's about, 25, 30 feet away. He goes, that's got he didn't even really take time to look at it. He goes, that's got about a 2-foot break on it, and proceeds to sink the putt, which I remember calling up my brother later and go, hey, Michael, this is good for putting also. So to fast forward, or to move on, if you're at the driving range and you set this up between you, you can tell where the ball's at in your stance, because there's a green beam hitting your ball and there's a green beam going the other way between your legs. So if you're playing that ball at the front of your stance, the middle of your stance, the back of your stance. You put your club face down, and if your club face is square, open, or closed, because you got that green beam right there.
Right.
Other lines going, I'll say north and south, is your target line. So you can sit there and line up, and you have your target, and you can quickly then change. If you're at the driving range and you're hitting at the 100-yard flag, now you just quickly move it, and you're aiming at the 150-yard flag, and everything, you still have the 490-degree beam, so you're squared up. So you can tell after you hit your divot on the grass, did you hit fat or thin or wherever, because that green beam is still there.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing you can do is, of course, you can use it for chipping. You can find out if you play it in the front of your stance, what happens to the trajectory as if you play it in the back of your stance. But then you can go over to the putting green. You raise it up on the tripod. The unit comes with a tripod. You raise it up, and the beam now, because you raised the unit up off the ground about 5 or 6 inches, the beam is projecting farther out. So you put your ball down there, the beam hits the ball, and you can put your putter down, and the beam will hit your putter. And if you have one of those putters that has the line on the back of it or something, you can tell right away is your club face square or not, because that beam is hitting it. So it hits your putter, it hits the ball, and then there's about 8 inches where, due to the optics and all that, the geometry, I guess, there's no beam for about 8 inches, and then the beam starts up again. And so, as I've told people, you're trying to make an 8-inch putt with the speed to get it to whatever hole you pick. And it doesn't matter whether it's a straight putt or it breaks left or right. There was a teacher in Europe, I can't remember his name, but he said every putt's a straight putt when you first hit it. After that, it's the terrain, right? Then it goes left or right, or it does go straight. So that's the same thing. If you can get this lined up, you hit an 8-inch putt, and if you find out you putted a few and you go, no, it's breaking more than I think, you just quickly turn it a little bit, and pretty soon you can work on a repetitive putting stroke. Again, I'm a hack, but I have a video where I made 27 of 28 from 10 feet because I worked. Charlie Reimer talks about rocking the baby, rocking the cradle, and I found out with this. I never realized it before, but I would sort of tense up my wrist or my hands as I putt. So I worked really hard at taking all that out and just doing my shoulders, and you can really become a good putter. So I thought that was everything this thing can do, right? That's it. And
there's more.
That's right. I've had some teaching pros buy this, and one teaching pro sent me a picture. He was on his indoor simulator, and he said, I'm working on my swing path. So he put one of the sticks down for his target line, but he set squared up back, and he had it at about a 4-degree angle, and that was his swing path. And the line's right there. Now you can work on that. I'm swinging that line. So I was like, wow, cool, swing path. Then another teaching pro, now he went out right about dusk out in Colorado. And you got to understand, this beam, the more shade, you can see the lines in daylight, full sunlight, but earlier in the morning, later in the afternoon, a cloudy day, you can see the line more. I mean, we're competing against the sun.
Right.
So this teaching pro went out right about dusk, and he projected the beam 62 yards to a flag on the range, and he is working on his wedge shots. He goes, I know now this is that line is direct to that. So if I'm good enough, I ought to be able to just ding the dog out of that flag there.
Wow.
And so he's working on his wedge shot. So it just has a lot of different applications. I took my, at the time, 5-year-old nephew to the putting green last year. He never had a putter in his hand. I set it down. It was a 5-foot putt, and in 8 minutes, just under 8 minutes, the last 6 he tried, he made 5. And he was just, now he wants to go golfing all the time. And last year also, now you have to understand, my wife, for the longest time, has hated squared up. I've spent forever in the basement. I've spent a lot of money, refinanced the house, and then quit my job. We sold the house and everything else. So she's not a big fan of squared up. And last year, and she's not much of a golfer. She's played, at that time, she'd played 15, 20 times. Mm-hmm. Last year, I took her to the putting green, and I said, come on, Jenny, I want you to try this. Why? Why do I have to do this? And I said, because you're my biggest critic. You hate squared up. So she goes, I set up an 8-foot putt, and she putts 28 balls, and she makes 11 of them. 11 of 28, 39%. And she has finally, now, she has never taken a lesson. I can't get her to take a lesson. She wants me to teach her. And I said, Jenny, I'm left-handed and I suck. What do you want me to teach you? But we now go out and play, and I'm telling you what, she's never going to be on the LPGA tour or anything, but she under about 8 feet, she's pretty deadly.
Okay.
I asked her, I said, why are you so good at putting? And she goes, Randy, I remember when I was putting with Squared Up, I remember seeing that beam, and so I look for that spot. What it does is it just puts it in your mind,
right,
to pay attention to that. Dr. Jim Sutty, who's the 2000 PGA Teacher of the Year, he gave us just a great endorsement, really nice gentleman. He said that it's proven that 85% of a golf swing is visual. And that being said, Squared Up does a better job of how did he put it? Better job of giving you alignment feedback than any tool he's used in 40 years of teaching. And that's because what it does is it puts it in your mind that you remember the green beans, and so you do your quick check, whether it's putting, and you go, oh, there's that spot 8 inches in front of my ball. That's where I think I got to putt. Or you're getting ready to hit, and oh, wait a minute, my club face is open. Maybe you want it open. Mm-hmm. Or wait a minute, I'm the club or the ball is in the front of my stance. I want it in the back of my stance. It helps you remember all that.
It's funny that you say that because, excuse me, I've talked to a few guys like yourself that have come up with products, and a lot of them say the same thing, that they've created for a specific purpose, but somebody else starts using it, and all of a sudden they've got these other marketing areas to go to that they didn't even realize. And I think that's it's just an interesting point, because I think as a designer or as the inventor, you're probably so focused on getting the tool itself just working that you forget the applications of everything else that it's possible for.
Yes. I had another teaching pro, Matthew Lake up in Michigan. He got a unit, and he used to play a lot of baseball, and he went to a hitting cage, and he set it down and put a wire basket over it so it wouldn't get dinged. And he said, man, this is great for hitting a baseball. And now I told him, I said, send me a video, because I'm not understanding what you're doing, but it's amazing. You're right. We get into the woods. Here I am in the forest, and I see that tree and no other tree, and other people start looking and go, hey, you can do this, you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very interesting. So now you did go to the PGA show. What, last year was it?
No, 2011.
Oh, a long time ago.
And we sold a bunch. We sold about 300, and we had to refund all the money because, at that time I was like, well, we built 6 prototypes. We can do manufacturing.
Right.
And so we took all these pre-orders, and then we refunded all those pre-orders. And my brother had gone overseas for the 2000. We're going to go to the 2012. So that's when we did 4 months with the company in Colorado and $40,000, and it was just horrible. I mean, it was what they gave us. It just wasn't good. And my brother, who wasn't working, I told him, I said, Michael, you got to go up there every day. You go check on those engineers. And I understand. And, we learn through life. He said, they're engineers. I'm not an engineer. They know what they're doing. Well, that goes back to what I said previously. They know what they're doing, but unless you keep them guided, it's not going to happen. And engineers never finish engineering. They can always do a little bit more. And the next thing you know, it's taken, 10 years, but by golly, you finally got it.
Right.
So we got really just not a good product. And then I sent him overseas, and that really was a disaster. But he was flying back. He was going to have 50 units. We're going to go to the PGA show in 2012. And he came back with it was bad. It wasn't very good. They weren't put together. We're flying out the next day. And it went from our 6 prototypes were pretty good. To the next one in the States was worse, and then the ones overseas was just
Oh my
horrible.
goodness.
And so, that's another 20 grand, and that was 2012. So
Right.
after that, I'm not a person that really gives up, and maybe that's stubbornness or stupidity. I'm not sure which S it is, but it's one of them. Michael decided to go on to bigger and better things, and I kept at this because I put so much money into it, and I truly believe in it. But I don't know if you've ever watched Shark Tank, but Mr. Wonderful always said that if you're not making money in 2 years, it's a hobby. And I remember it really was a hobby until last year when I quit my job and we moved out here. Oh, now, I better be getting serious because if we don't start making money soon, I'm standing on the street corner with a can
Tin can.
trying to get some money. So it's a big motivator, big motivator to if you have given up everything. Because it was pretty easy to always say, well, maybe we'll get something going next month. Well, now I got, real serious because I focus on this full time.
Yeah, yeah. So now, how are you marketing the product? Are you marketing it to country clubs, to big box stores, to corporate events? How exactly are you doing your current marketing?
Right. Well, we did a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo. It's like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and that's where we sold the first 200 units. And we, like I said, we're all over the world. I'm really concentrating on colleges and high schools because I think that team sports, that's where people are going to practice the most. Because this really is for people that are going to practice. I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm 60. I don't hate to say I'm 61, but people my age, most golfers my age, they don't go out there spending time hitting 1,000 balls a week or a day or whatever it is. They're not going to go spend that time. They practiced enough. They just want to go out and play some golf. So I believe my core market is the high school, college, and also the teaching pros. I am getting a lot of teaching pros. I do have ideas about corporate events. You get somebody that's putting on a really big tournament, and it'd be a good door prize or stuff like that. Well, the other thing is, and I'm getting ready to launch a Kickstarter campaign here later this week, so that will be coming up shortly. I'm getting a lot of interest out of South Korea. I've sold, for only 200 units. I can't say I've sold a ton, but I've sold almost 10 in South Korea now. And with shipping costs of being $60 per unit, they're paying $260. So, that's pretty good deal. But marketing, I'm not going to go to the big stores. A couple reasons. One, they want, if the price on it is $200, they want it for $100. Well, right now I'm building it for $125. The first 200 I built for $225, so I took a loss on the first 200.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the way it is. The more you build, the cheaper they become. But even if I was building them for here shortly, I think I'll be down to $80, $85. But like I said, these big box stores, they want it for they want to be able to double their profit or their cost on it. So that's a little tough. I'm going to really keep it on the website. But I recently hired I got a great group of guys working with me doing marketing, and they're doing this influencer, which I was, what's an influencer? I have no idea and everything. But they're reaching out to different golfers at many different levels that have a lot of followers on Instagram or Twitter accounts. And we're working out agreements with how much are we going to pay them or whatever for them to post about Squared Up. Of course, they get a unit and, and all that kind of stuff. And that really, I think that really is the way to go. I know when we first started this, I had looked into magazines like Golf Digest and some of these others. Well, man, if you wanted to be in, I can't remember the publication, but I'll say Golf Digest. It probably wasn't them, but if you wanted to be in them, in one of theirs, you could get a full page 3 months in a row, and you'd only spend $50,000. So you
Oh,
know, it's just that type of marketing and advertising just doesn't work anymore, especially with all the Instagram and that kind of stuff. So we're talking right now with a young lady that just finished playing college golf. She's working to make it on the LPGA tour. She has 60,000 followers, and for $500, she'll post about Squared Up. So,
hmm.
it seems like that's probably a smarter way to go.
Yeah, it certainly is. Nowadays, it's so expensive to market these things, and unless you get those that big money behind you, it's very difficult. And then, of course, if you get the big money, if some company comes sniffing around and wants to buy it from you, then you lose control over everything.
Right,
So,
right. Well, but now I'll tell you, my wife, her hope is that some company wants to. And I finally said, when I first started this, I had dreams of opening up a small manufacturing area. And I tell you, one of the things that I really wanted to do, I don't think it'll ever happen, but when I grew up in the Kansas City, Missouri area, and at the end of my 8th grade year, my dad moved us down to the farm. Now he still worked up in the city, and it was an hour and a half drive every day. And I always thought, man, wouldn't it be great if there was some job down here that he could do? And of course, you can't. There's nothing that's going to pay what he's making up in the city. Well, I had this idea that I would love to set up some sort of small assembly trailer, something like that, next to a rural high school out here in Georgia, where the kids are learning. These young boys and girls are learning about optics and printed circuit boards and injection mold and lasers and just everything. And also, mom or dad can come in there and, because I do think there's a lot of parents that would just soon not have to drive the hour up to Atlanta if they could find a decent paying job closer to home. So then the parents could do that, and maybe on weekends, on a Saturday, the kid could come in and make some money doing that kind of stuff. I don't know if I'll ever get there. I'll probably end up doing manufacturing overseas, but right now it's being done down in Tampa, Florida. But I would like to do that. I think that kids can learn a lot, and maybe even there's somebody that says, I don't want to know about lasers or optics or anything, but I sure would like to do accounting. Well, here, sit with our accounting and you learn real life accounting, It's just some sort of thought I have.
Well, it's always good to have that thought and that idea and to keep it going. Now, you mentioned that you have gone. Now, the original 200 was in aluminum, I think you said, and now the new ones coming out are they out already in plastic? And what's the difference in them? You mentioned about the weight and everything. The construction is just as solid.
Right. The footprint's exactly the same. The 1,000 are being my injection mold. This goes back to the manufacturing engineering. The injection mold was supposed to have been completed October 26th. Well, now it looks like it's about November 15th, which this is another pitfall with doing this. You have to plan for your marketing based on what your engineers are telling you. So I'm going to be in Las Vegas December 3rd and 4th for the Golf Coaches Association of America and the Women Golf Coaches Association of America Expo. Well, you got to pay money to go there and demo and everything. And based on what I was being told, the injection mold process would be done October 26th. Everything would work. So I paid my money. And now they're saying November 15th, and you have Thanksgiving in there. Am I going to have product? Well, I don't know. It's going to be close. But sometime, I do believe the end of November, the first week of December, we're going to start rolling out product. The difference is, besides the weight, the it's going, like I said, it's going from 1.2 pounds to 5 ounces. It's very light, but it's the same footprint, same size and everything. We were able, finding the like I said, the right engineer to take it into mass production. We were able to identify better batteries. So now the current unit, the 200, the battery lasts 2.5 hours and then you have to recharge. The new one, the battery will last 3.5 hours. So you get another hour of battery life with that. Um, Other than that, there's really nothing that's changed other than the weight and the battery life of it. So I have plans for the next production run after that. We're going to do a few different things that will allow you to turn off other lasers. Just have one on if you want to use it for putting instead of all four being on. But from a high school standpoint or a college standpoint, if you're on the putting green and you have all four on, you can set up 4 different putts that, you can have 4 people putting and just working away around it.
Right. Well, it sounds like a very interesting product, Randy, and I wish you all the best of luck with it. And before we go, you mentioned about a Kickstarter. Let the people know where can they go to. Do you have it set up already? Can they go and start getting involved if they wish?
It should be turned on here in just a couple of days. So if they go to Kickstarter, they just look at they find Squared Up, and that's spelled SQRDUP.com. There's no valve in there other than the U. So from the old Marine Corps way, I'll do it as Sierra, Quebec, Romeo, Delta, Uniform, Papa. And the reason why we had to do that was we tried to spell the regular way, and somebody had set that domain up on GoDaddy, and they wanted $15,000 for it. And so we figured out, well, we do it this way here. We do have a website, same thing, www.sqrdup.com. You can find us there, and you can order on there. I would tell anybody that's interested. Now on there, it's if it's in the U.S., it's $200 and $20 for shipping. I've learned very quickly that I wasn't charging enough for shipping. But if you wanted to email me, I can always give you a special code, give you $15 off or something, which is randy.bowman, BOWMAN, @squaredup.com.
Well, again, thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
Well, thanks, Gary.
As a retired Marine, and I just thought it sounds like a terrific product, and hope it goes very far for you, and hope you can recoup all of that money.
Yes, I appreciate it, Gary. I appreciate for you reaching out to me. It's fantastic. I'm humbled every time somebody has some interest in Squared Up.
My pleasure. And
sponsor an ad on the podcast. Support our show and let people know about your business. Email us today.
Now it's time to do the calendar. Now it's time to do the calendar. Oh, hooray, let's sing the calendar. Now it's time to do the calendar.
all right, we're back, and let's see. There's not a heck of a lot on the old calendar as the season is really winding down. Showing up on the PGA Tour calendar is the QBE Shootout, and that will take place in Naples, Florida, and that's a 2-man team event. And on the European Tour calendar is the South African Open, hosted by the city of Johannesburg. And that's the calendar. That's all that's going on. I mean, there's some Q schools and whatnot going on, but not too much, as the tournaments, the tours are getting ready for the holidays and for next season. And if we might just take a moment to give our condolences to the Bush family. We lost President George H.W. Bush this past weekend, and he was a great advocate for the game of golf and a big fan, and he passed away at the age of 94, I believe. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the Bush family. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. Hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank my guest, Randy Bowman of Squared Up. And remember, if you mention my name, Gary Mack, you can get $15 off on his great product. And I want to thank you all for listening. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, wherever you listen to this podcast. Hit the subscribe button. That helps me grow the show and expand the new listeners. And until next time, remember, as you walk down the pathway of life, you must smell the roses, but you only get to play one round. Good night, everybody.